watching Gearz.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. If you watch this show very much, you know that we try to feature all kinds of projects and all kinds of vehicles, from hardcore fabrication stuff to simple bolt-on things, to try to encourage you to get out there and get involved in a project no matter what your skill level or your budget. Now, a lot of people think you've got to get an old vehicle to do this. That's not the case. Matter of fact, most of the projects that you have out there in your garages are newer vehicles that you drive every day. So it comes as no surprise that we get a lot of emails from people asking, hey, what do I do to my newer car or truck to make it better? For example, this one comes from Chris from Texas, and he says, hey, Stacey, I just bought a brand new Camaro, and I want to make it stand out. I want to make it outrun the Mustangs and Challengers out there, and I don't want it to look like just another Camaro, and I don't want to void my warranty. What would you do? Those are good questions, and they apply to any project, not just a Camaro. But since you specifically mentioned a Camaro, we're going to show you exactly what I would do to a brand new Camaro. First, to get a cool direction and concept for the build, and to make it unique, I'd hook up with somebody that was historically involved with the Camaro. Someone like my good friend Jimmy Johnson, whose office is literally inside of a Camaro, a really fast Camaro. What would you like to do to a new Camaro? What do you think it would be cool to do?
Well, starting in a pretty awesome spot. So,
yeah. Are you a big Chevy guy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, big Chevy guy. For one, it's all I've ever raced professionally.
Yeah.
Since I was 16, I've been under contract with them. I'm just really excited about the opportunity and build this thing together. And then, honestly, the fun I've had with Valvoline over the years, not only do they take care of what we need to do on the racetrack, but to build these cool vehicles and watch them come to life in the process has always been a lot of fun, so I appreciate it.
Well, this is going to be great, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, with Jimmy on board, the first thing we're going to do is look at the paint on this car. Because having something that's a little different than everyone else is what hot rodding and customization's all about. So we decided to make our own stripes using a wrap. Now, when most people think of a vehicle wrap, they think of a wrap that completely covers the whole vehicle. But doing a partial wrap or just stripes using wrap material is one of the hottest things going on right now, and it's much more affordable.
It's really a partial that we put on the car, but
yeah,
it blends so nicely. It's just a little bit of a touch completely changes the stance of the car.
Talking about the durability of the wraps, it's a marriage between the ink, the media, and the laminate. And so based on that recipe, we offer a very strong durability message to the market.
So, working with the guys at Ape Wraps, we created a unique accent stripe using a new material called frozen chrome. By adding a translucent color to a metallic base, we end up with a material that takes on the look of a satin metal when light hits it. Really cool. Now, the key here, as with any stripe or accent, is to accentuate the lines and attitude of the vehicle, but not overpower it. So, the stripes and the logo are designed to pop only when the light hits it.
By going in and doing something minimal like that is more to accent the shapes and the beauty lines of the car.
If you like cars, if you like coffee, you're gonna love Gearz coffee cars. Because in each pack, you'll find a special blend of rich, robust coffee to get your blood pumping, as well as a collectible cartoon sticker and matching photo card of some of the wildest vehicles Stacey has built or featured over the years. Collect the whole series and be sure to keep an eye out for the ultra-rare Strange Brew card that are added to random packages to keep things interesting. It's Gearz coffee cars, the best bean on the car scene.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz and our old number 7 Camaro project. Now, you might be wondering why we're calling it that. Well, because we're using this car to show you the top 7 things that you can do to a newer vehicle to make it really stand out from the crowd. And I put those 7 things together with my buddy Jimmy Johnson, who just happens to have 7 NASCAR championships under his belt. So, old number 7 it is. Now, the first thing that we did, the first thing you can do is modify the paint on your vehicle. And as you can see, we did that by adding this really cool frozen chrome stripe from Ape Wraps. As you can see, just that little bit has really brought this paint to life. All right, with that done, we are ready to move on to number 2. body modifications. If you want something that's different than anything else out there, well, the body probably has to look a little different. So we went to Anderson Composites and got a whole bunch of carbon fiber, because fiber's good for your body, right? Right, take a look. Anderson Composites are well known for building some of the nicest carbon fiber parts out there for late model vehicles. And this Camaro stuff is a prime example. Check out this Copo hood. Now the first thing that grabs you is this massive functional hood scoop. But if you look a little closer, you'll notice that the whole outer skin is one-piece carbon fiber. But then when you go up underneath, you'll notice that there's a complete carbon fiber skeleton up underneath to give you the strength you need. Then they have the hood latch in place, you have the hardware for the hinges, everything. This is designed to bolt right in place of your stock hood. Now the rear trunk lid, same sort of deal. If you'll look at this, it's a one-piece outer shell, and then you have a carbon fiber skeleton up underneath to give you the strength. Then you have all the holes, the areas for the brake lights, the brackets, everything, so you can just bolt it on. Now, the cool thing about this is it does away with the wing and gives you a one-piece spoiler. Look at that. So you have kind of that cool old whale tail look. For the front, we have an SS-style chin spoiler. For the rear, we've got a carbon fiber diffuser. And then to tie it all together down the sides, we have carbon fiber rocker panels. So what we've got here is a bunch of parts that are designed to bolt right in place of your stock pieces. They're going to enhance the aerodynamics, they're going to improve the cooling, they're going to be lighter, and they look better. That is why you see a lot of carbon fiber on race cars. Okay, that takes care of the trunk lid and the hood. The rest of these parts we'll put on when we get the car up in the air and start messing with the exhaust and the suspension. But for now, you can see what a difference just a few body panels will make to the look of a vehicle. Now what I'm doing now is measuring out for the location of my hood pins, because anytime you put on a carbon fiber hood, you really need to use some hood pins just for safety's sake, especially if you're going to be racing. Now, if you're going to modify your panels, maybe do some custom painting on them, I got a tip here for you that'll help you out there.
Now, quick tip. Brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn.
You know, if you're doing any kind of customizing on a vehicle, you're going to find that there's always a need to do some custom painting. But the problem is, what if you do it and you don't like it, or you use the wrong color, or you don't like the color, or you just want to change it? Well, that's kind of a tight spot to be in, except if you use a peel-off paint like this stuff that Rust-Oleum makes. Now, it goes on just like normal paint, but once it dries, you can just peel it off if you don't like it or you get tired of it. What a great idea for customizers, or a way to experiment with different colors and graphics. Of course, if you like what you've done, you just leave it on there and it'll become permanent in a few months. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website. Hey, we're back and deep into the buildup of the old number 7 Camaro, where we're showing the top 7 things, in no particular order, that you can do to a later model vehicle to make it stand out from everything on the road. With paint and body modifications being number 1 and number 2, now we come to number 3. interior upgrades. For example, this is a brand new SS Camaro, but it's got the same interior that most of us have, cloth. And the interior most of us wish we had is leather. But leather is actually an option for you. Check this out. Catskin is a company that specializes in leather upholstery kits for most late model cars and trucks, and even some earlier vehicles. Now, this is not just some cheap seat cover like you get at Walmart. No, this is real upholstery that's designed to fit your original seat frames just like your stock cloth upholstery. But the big difference is this is automotive grade leather that you can get in all kinds of different colors and styles and options so you can dial in the look of your vehicle. For example, we have an orange stripe on the car, so we added orange leather inserts and orange thread. There's not going to be another Camaro on the road like it. Now, the kit comes with leather upholstery for both bucket seats in the front, the top panel and the bottom panel, and the headrests. And it also has the complete rear seat upholstery, both the top and the bottom panels. So, we're going to get this nice and warm. We're going to put it in. The first step, of course, is to remove the seats. For the front buckets, 2 bolts in the back of each seat will release the seat frame from the floor. The rear seat is held in place with friction, so it just pops right out. Okay, to remove the original upholstery, we got to take this headrest off because nothing's coming off until this comes off. Unfortunately, on the Camaro, this headrest is not removable. It's adjustable, but it's not removable. What that means is that the locks are inside the headrest. So you're going to have to disassemble the headrest to get it off. Here's how to do it. First, slide off the original upholstery, then carefully remove the foam. Next, pry the plastic cap off of the headrest, remove the seat clips and the top lock, then slide off the adjuster and pull out the posts. Now we'll take the new headrest upholstery and stuff the foam inside, working it carefully into all the edges and corners. Then we'll cut our hole for the adjuster. Next, we'll reassemble the headrest and slide it into the foam, and then attach it on the bottom, and that's it. For the seats, the first step is removing the old upholstery. And this is going to require cutting the factory hog rings in the center of the cushion. Then, with the new upholstery nice and warm, we'll lay it in place, center it up, and then start attaching the hog rings to get the leather to contour to the center of the cushion properly. Then we'll slowly work it out and around the edges, smoothing out the wrinkles as we go. Now, don't get in a hurry and rip the leather because that will definitely ruin your day. All right, to upholster the rear seat, you're going to find it's the same techniques, but it's even easier because you don't have to mess with headrests or a moving seat back. You just take off the old upholstery and put on the new. And in just a few hours, you'll have a completely different interior ready to be enjoyed.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization. But instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gearz Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gearz Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen.
Hey, welcome to Gearz and part 2 of our old number 7 Camaro project. Now, if you're just seeing this project for the first time, you're probably wondering, why in the world are you calling a new Camaro old number 7? That's a good question. And the reason is because the vast majority of you out there right now watching this show are driving a vehicle that's 10 years old or newer. And we get questions all the time from people going, you know, what is the best things that I can do to a newer vehicle to make it better? So the purpose of old number 7 is to show you the top 7 things that you can do to a newer vehicle, car, truck, or SUV, to make it run better, drive better, perform better, to make it stand out in the crowd. Now, the first 3 things that we've already done are number 1, paint upgrades with custom graphics from Ape Wraps. Number 2, body modifications with carbon fiber parts from Anderson Composites. And number 3, interior upgrades with catskin leather. Now we're moving on to number 4, and that is engine performance, which means we're going to go under this hood and we're going to crank up the horsepower on this engine. And the best way to do that on a newer vehicle is with a supercharger. Take a look.
I'm a supercharger guy.
Any particular reason, or just?
You know, for me and the couple of custom cars I have, I want them to sound good, you know, and if somebody gives you the look and you feel like you need to stand on the gas, I just want to boil the tires for a while.
This is Edelbrock's E-Force supercharger system, and it's designed to fit under your stock hood and deliver up to 600 horsepower and 550 foot-pounds on pump gas. Yeah, and they build these for a lot of different vehicles, so this isn't just a Chevy thing. Now, obviously, the heart of the system is in this Eaton-style supercharger that sits right down in the lifter valley of the engine, so that's what gives you your super low profile. Then it blows the air up, and the air charge goes through these air-to-water intercoolers on either side, and then right down through the manifolds into the engine. Yeah, very cool system. And of course, it comes with all of the hardware, the wiring harnesses, the pulleys, the air intakes, even the hoses that you're going to need to put this on, making this a true bolt-on system. This is how to put it in. The first step is to remove the ECM and pack it in the included shipping box and send it to Edelbrock to be reflashed. And once it comes back, just reinstall it and you're ready to roll. No tuning required. Next, we'll pull off the radiator shroud and the front fascia to give us proper access to the front of the car. Then we'll pull off the lower panel so we can get to the radiator petcock to drain the coolant. We'll follow that by pulling off the numerous hoses on the front of the engine, and the electric throttle body connector. Next, we'll remove the manifold cover and then disconnect the rest of the hoses and sensors and fittings from the engine. Finally, we'll unbolt the intake manifold and pull it off. With the manifold out of the way, it's always a good idea to tape over the intake ports so you don't accidentally drop something down in there while you're working on things like installing the new fuel line extension and modifying the foam valley insulator. Once that's done, the next step is to pull off the radiator hoses and remove the electric cooling fan. Okay, at this point, we're ready to remove the belt. Now, if you'll notice on the Camaro here, it's got 2 belts on it. The outer belt is your typical serpentine belt that comes off by releasing the tensioner. But this inner belt is a stretch belt. As you can see, there's no tensioner there. So, how do you get this on and off? Well, check it out.
Now, quick tip. Brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn.
When it comes to engine accessories, the idea of the stretch belt is a fairly new concept. Now, at first glance, it looks a lot like your typical serpentine belt, except they're usually much smaller, and instead of using a tensioner to keep the belt tight, it is stretched to fit, which means putting one of these on and off can be a challenge, unless you have the right tool. Fortunately, the right tool is available. For example, this is a kit And as you can see, it's just a plastic wedge to remove a belt and another wedge to help you install a belt. What you do is set the tool on the pulley and then rotate the crank. The wedge lifts the belt and slides it on or off with no damage. This definitely beats trying to pry them off with a screwdriver, and once again shows how important it is to have the right tools before you start. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
Can't get enough gears? Make sure to check out the Tales of a Gearhead podcast, where Stacey brings a lifetime of automotive knowledge, friendships, and expertise to the listener. Also, check out our social media channels for updates and videos of Gearz projects, as well as special contests, giveaways, and events. If you have a vehicle you want to enter into What Are You Working On?, go to staceydavid.com and submit it. There's also the online store and tons of other Gearhead information that will encourage you to get out there, build something, and go drive it.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz and our Supercharger install on the old number 7 Camaro project. Now, obviously, putting on a Supercharger definitely represents engine and performance upgrades, which we have listed as number 4 in the top 7 things that you can do to a newer vehicle to make it really unique. Now, as you can see, we already have the manifolds in place and the new pulleys and the wiring harnesses are on, and it really doesn't look that much different, but it's about to, because now it's time to put the Supercharger on. All right, with the blower in place, the last step is to make room for the heat exchanger. And it's going to keep that air charge cool, and it mounts down here in front. So we're going to pull off that crash bar, and then we're going to modify the side shrouds for the hoses. Next, we'll install the heat exchanger and run our hoses. From here on out, it's just a matter of installing the final hoses, hooking up the harnesses, and reassembling everything. And you're going to end up with a low-profile Supercharger that looks like a factory option, and it's going to run with anything on the road. Now, another couple of things that's good to do to any engine, especially something you just put a Supercharger on, is to upgrade to some E3 spark plugs. And this will give you the ability to take full advantage of all that extra air-fuel mixture you're going to be getting. Now, another thing is to upgrade to some modern engine oil. Now, I know you're thinking, oil's oil, right? No, these modern engines have an issue with carbon buildup. And Valvoline just came out with a modern engine oil to help solve that problem. And it's a good thing too, because you don't want to spend the money putting on a Supercharger, then have your engine die due to bad oiling. All right, with engine performance out of the way, we move on to number 5, the exhaust system. Now, upgrading your exhaust system is a good idea because it not only can give you more power, but it can definitely give you a better sound, which is kind of one of the main reasons you have a cool car truck, right? Right. Now, the SS Camaro, it's got a decent exhaust system on it, but it can be better. It can always be better. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is Hooker's Blackheart dual mode exhaust system for the Camaro SS, and as you can see, it's got a polished stainless steel transverse muffler and 4 tips. And if you'll notice, these outer tips have a little butterfly valve in them that opens and closes depending on where your throttle position is. So the way this works, when you're tooling around town, you want everything quiet, the exhaust runs here, through the muffler, and out through the inner tips, giving you the sound and the flow that you want. But when you open up that throttle, these outer valves open and the exhaust bypasses the muffler and goes right out those outer tips, giving you even more sound and more performance like you want. Yeah, this is a cool system. Here's how it goes in. According to Hooker's measurements, cut the stock exhaust pipes 2 inches back from the rear crossmember and remove the stock muffler and exhaust tips. Next, transfer the stock rubber mounts and aluminum brackets onto the new system. Next, mount the new muffler assembly into the car. You know, one of the first true freedoms you experience as a kid is that first bicycle. Man, it becomes your transportation to the world, or at least the local neighborhood. And in my neighborhood, man, we all had bikes. And we'd stick playing cards in the spokes, and we'd suck on black licorice, make it look like we were big biker dudes. And it was magic. But a bike wasn't just about transportation. No, it became an extension of your personality. And there were all kinds of bikes out there. There were 10 speeds, there were mountain bikes, there were Stingrays, there were BMX bikes, and they all had their strengths and weaknesses. And that's where the idea for the story of the purple bicycle came from. Because just like a bike might wish it had the talents or skills of another bike, so do we sometimes overlook our God-given talents and wish we had somebody else's talents, skills, because they seem to be better than ours. It's a simple lesson, but something we all need to be reminded of from time to time. Hey, welcome back to Gearz and the final steps of our old number 7 Camaro. Now, with engine performance taken care of and exhaust taken care of, we're down to number 6 of the top 7 things that you can do to a newer vehicle: suspension.
I like to cruise, you know, so I would say something a little softer and, you know, a little better ride quality.
So you don't want a race car on the street?
For me, no. I have that outlet, you know.
Sure.
So I'm more about ride quality, and I want my wife to hop in the car and enjoy driving it. I do have some other cars that aren't so ride focused, and she won't get in them. Like, hey babe, let's take this to the you know, hamburger stand. She's like, no, it's too rough.
And this is where you need to be careful, because there's companies out there like BMR Suspension that offer all kinds of stuff for the Camaro. And if you're not careful, you can put the wrong suspension in for the way you're going to use the car. For example, if the car is mostly street driven, they've got these non-adjustable rear trailing arms and control arms. They have this strut brace. They've got larger front and rear sway bars. All of this will take your suspension to the next level, be great on the street, and still give you some fun on the track. However, if you want to go to the next level, you can get fully adjustable rear trailing arms and control arms. They have cradle braces. They've got different bushing kits for the rear cradle. Man, you can turn that car into a serious track monster. So you need to choose wisely. Just because it looks good doesn't mean it needs to go on the car. Now, since this car is more street driven, we're going to go with this street performance package because it's a great bang for the buck. Springs and shocks are another thing to look at when you're dealing with suspension. And once again, there's companies out there like Eibach that have all kinds of different spring choices, different heights, different spring rates, so you can really dial in your suspension for the way you're going to drive the car. Shocks, the same thing. These are Viking dual adjustable shocks for the rear of the Camaro. And notice you can adjust your compression and rebound separately, so you can really dial in the car. Now, this might be a little overkill for a car that you're driving every day, but if you're going to ever venture out on the track, you might want to think about this. The magic of this BMR suspension is that it bolts right in place of the stock pieces, so installation is really simple. All right, that brings us to number 7, brakes, wheels, and tires. And this isn't just for looks.
If you're gonna upgrade the engine, you've got to put some brakes on it. So I definitely agree with that.
So we're gonna upgrade those stock front brakes with this Willwood Aero-Lite brake kit for the Camaro. Now these feature a massive 15-inch rotor and an equally impressive 6-piston caliper. Then, of course, you've got all the hardware and brackets to put it in. The best part is, though, this bolts right in place of your stock brakes. So let's get them on. Now, the stock Camaro wheels aren't bad, they're just stock. We want something a lot more unique than this. So we went to Weld Racing and got a set of these S77 wheels. Now these are a very cool, incredibly strong forged wheel that we got with a polished rim and the charcoal coating on the spokes to accent the look of the car. For size, we're using a 20x9 on the front and pushing to a 20x10.5 on the rear. And we're wrapping those wheels with a set of Nitto high-performance NT 555 G2 tires to give us increased traction and handling capabilities to control the extra power, handling, and braking that we've added. On the front is a 275 30/20, and on the rear is a 305 30/20. And that's it, old number 7. A great example of the top 7 areas to modify on a newer vehicle to make it stand out from anything else out there on the road. And those top 7 things, again, in no particular order, are number 1, paint modifications. Number 2, body modifications. Number 3, interior upgrades. Number 4, engine and performance modifications. Number 5, exhaust. Number 6, suspension. And number 7, brakes and wheels and tires. And the best part is, you can have a car just like this, but you can't buy it. You gotta build it.